All right, a happy Wednesday out there. Hopefully, everyone is doing well. For you Atlanta Hawks out there, you do not get an off-season video and you do not get an off-season article. You staved off elimination on a Trae Young three-pointer, but we do have some videos to do, and we're going to start it off with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Their off-season starts, eliminated in 5 games by Denver. You can go on ESPN.com and read all about them, along with the Clippers, and we'll do a Clipper video in a little while here. Minnesota, when you look at this season, a season of high expectations, listen, and we're going to say this about Cleveland if they lose to New York. Anytime you mortgage your future and you trade 3 unprotecteds and another first and a Walker Kessler and you lose in the first round, you fell below expectations. I mean, that's the reality. And I know there were injuries to Karl Anthony Towns, and I know you got Mike Conley Jr. at the February trade deadline, and what is the body of work over 82 games? It's incomplete right now. But when you make a trade of that significance like Minnesota did, and we said it last year in July when we were doing TV, Zach Lowe said it, I said it, you have one swing. You have one swing at it. I've been there. I had one swing at it, and I effed it up, right? In the Brooklyn-Boston trade. So if you're going to mess it up or screw it up, how do you regroup here? And I'm not ready to bury Gobert quite yet, but this is who Minnesota is married to. You've got Gobert's got $131 million left. The Towns extension doesn't kick in until 2024-25. He's got $224 left. Conley's on an expiring. Anthony Edwards is extension eligible, 5 for $207. That can go up to $249 if all NBA. And then you've got Jaden McDaniels, who's extension eligible, right? When you get into next offseason, 2024-25, you could have $140 million tied into 4 players, okay? Now, you are going to have to take that next step. Now, what does that next step mean? Next step isn't losing in the first round of the playoffs in 5 games here. How I phrased the state of the roster is incomplete based on, I want to see 60 games or 65 games with Towns and Gobert, and immature. The immature part, and we can talk about the Gobert punch and the McDaniels breaking his hand. The immature part is how to handle leads during a game, 20 blown double-digit leads. Certainly a couple in the playoffs here, that Laker game. How do you handle adversity? How do you handle when a team comes back? How do you handle late game execution? And for that alone, I'm giving Minnesota an F, right? Maybe it's the newness, maybe it's the chemistry, maybe it's some of the parts that don't fit, but that's kind of how I see the state of the roster right now. It's an incomplete and it's immature. You've got some decisions to make. Let's just go through their finances real quick here. They've got $144 million in committed salary. The luxury tax threshold is $162 million. That includes the Mike Conley partial guarantee. I'm expecting that to become fully guaranteed. It's 23.3 on is his contract. He's got it's guaranteed for 14.3. It becomes guaranteed on June 24th. The same for Taurean Prince on June 28th. Jordan McLaughlin is another situation. I could see them waiving him by June 30th here. But I expect Prince and I expect Conley on this roster. They're not going to try to gut the roster and use cap space in here. So basically, you've got a little bit of a buffer. Let's say you waive McLaughlin. You've got about $20 million in flexibility. You can go out and use your $12.2 million non-tax mid-level exception to add a player to your bench. However, does that cost you Naz Reid? Does that cost you Jalen Noel? 2 players that are free agents on. So there is a balancing act as far as from Minnesota, as far as when you look at, do you go out and retain Reid, or do you go out and bring in someone else with that non-tax mid-level exception? You do not have a first-round pick. That was traded to Utah in the Gobert trade. You have a second-round pick, which is pick 53. That's probably like a two-way player here. So that's a little bit of a scope on your finances. Talk top front office priority is extending Anthony Edwards, right? 5 for 207, 5 for 249 if he hits all NBA. You give him a blank check and you tell him, fill in the blanks here. The only thing I would not do is add a player option to his extension. But he is going to get maxed out. He might be the only player this offseason as from that rookie class that gets a max deal. That is a no-brainer. Yeah, the Laker game was a disappointment, but he performed. He showed up. 25 and a half. The games without Towns, 25.5 points and 38% from three, right? Ranked in the top 10 in total points on drives, downhill. So he's going to be taken care of. Now, the other one is McDaniels, okay? How does Minnesota's front office take into account how the season ended for him compared to the big picture, right? I mean, coming out of Washington, right, there was technical fouls, immaturity. So there's still that lingering, there's still some growth here, but one of the best defenders in the NBA, top 10 in field goal percentage allowed as the closest defender, guards all NBA players, all-stars. We'll probably should see his name on one of these all-defensive teams. Remember, rookie extensions now could be for 5 years. It could be prior. It could only be for 4 years because of the if it was a non-max. So you can do 5 for 100. As I said, McDaniels, Towns, Gobert, and Edwards, 4 guys that could equal $140 million. And here's where the new CBA comes in. They're still going to be below the first apron and the second apron here, but when you diminish your draft assets, you're relying on the minimum market. You're relying on maybe trades as far as Taurean Prince, Kyle Anderson, guys that have helped you here. But when you have a roster that is so top heavy with salary, 40, 35, 36 million, everything below that is going to be basically guys on the veteran minimum here, or maybe your second round pick, or maybe, as I said, you bring back some of your free agents here. And that's the problem when you make that big trade. You're married to this roster without wiggle room. So I would expect an extension definitely on July 1 or June 30th on Edwards. We'll see what happens with McDaniels. He can go right up until October 23rd. Team needs bigger budget, all right? Bigger budget. Now we've got this new ownership group with Alex Rodriguez coming in, right? Are they willing to go into the luxury tax? I would say probably not right now based off a team that loses in the first round here. You can go into luxury tax. Remember, the second apron is about 169.5, smaller restrictions. I do not see this team going into the second apron, which is 179.5. I mean, basically, you would have to spend, if you're 14 below the tax, another $31 million in the offseason. I do not see that happen. But as I said, Naz Reid, Jalen Noel, those are your 2 free agents that you've got to figure out as far as what happens with them. Now, your draft picks, we know they're depleted, right? 23, 25, 27, out the window. Those go to Utah. You owe them the Jazz of 2029, top 5 protected first. Utah has got the right to swap in 2026. You've only got 5 second round picks available. They cannot trade a first in any year. So that's the big picture of Minnesota. I think you probably are feeling a lot better last year at this time when you lose to Memphis and you've got we've got some things to build off here. Now, as I said, married to the roster. Towns, Gobert, Edwards, McDaniels, Conley for at least another year. I would expect that's the group that's going to be back. As I said, if you're going to go, nuclear, it's going to probably be around Towns. It's not going to be around Gobert because of his skill set, how much is left on his contract, the value here. But at the end of the day, and we're going to talk about the Clippers, you got to stay healthy. And I want chemistry. You want chemistry on the court. You want Towns to play 65 games. And as I said, you want Conley in a full year here. So that is it on Minnesota. We will talk soon.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.